Hey everyone, I wanted to go over the new and exciting news that we got for Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak, which is set to release on both the Nintendo Switch and on PC on June 30th. And as we get one day closer to the Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak digital presentation, I thought this would be the best time for me to do my 5 most wanted returning monsters making an appearance into Sunbreak once again. Remember that the developers have stated multiple times that they wish to bring back monsters that are not only relevant to the series, but they have had some sort of impact to the fan base in one way or another. And I think the 5 monsters that I'm going to touch upon, I think fit all of those categories that the developers have in mind. With that said, when I did put out my most recent predictions video for the upcoming digital event, I did make mention that in that video, I think that ultimately there's going to be 5 returning monsters from previous games. We are not taking into account such species and or apexes or any of those type of monsters. We're simply speaking about the Astalos and the Shogun Senators of the world. So since I said that there's going to be 5 returning monsters total, we already know at the very least 2 of them. So in this video, I'm going to tackle the next 3 monsters that I think are going to be added in. And hopefully, if Capcom feels generous, they're going to be adding post-launch DLC monsters. And maybe the other 2 that I'm going to talk about at the end of the video, they're also making the cut as well. But since we all have favorites and certainly everyone has their own favorites list, I would certainly love to hear your opinion. Do leave a comment letting me know what monsters you want to see come back into Monster Hunter Rise, because at the end of the day, we all have favorites either because we love the fight, we love the armor set, or we just simply became fans of a very specific monster. So I certainly want to hear your guys' feedback in the comment section. So first and foremost, I think the monster that makes the most amount of sense to make a comeback into Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak would be Brachydios. He was the flagship monster of Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate. He also made the cut in Monster Hunter 4. He made it back again once in Generations and Generations Ultimate. And they even made the cut again in Iceborne as well. So this is a monster that has been not only a fan favorite, kind of like Nargacuga, but also has been in the most recent wave of titles, pretty much almost every single most recent title. So Brachydios, I think, is not only a popular monster, but it's a monster that fits kind of like the ecology that Rise has kind of presented. One of the ideas that I've had is that every single monster that is going to be returning or is going to be new needs to kind of fit the Citadel. They need to be a monster that would kind of like visit the Citadel and make their way around that map. And maybe I'm just wrong for thinking that, but at the end of the day, if they choose to not stick to that idea, I think Capcom can just simply toss Brachydios in multiple areas that is already available on Rise, like in the volcano, for example, or in the Shrine Ruins, and he would feel right at home there. It wouldn't necessarily be that much of a problem for him to be seen walking around just doing his natural living standards in that type of biome. The second monster that I do want to bring up is of course Deviljho. This is a monster that's been pretty much in almost another big batch of games. 3 Ultimate, in 3, in 4 Ultimate, Generations, and in the base Monster Hunter world as well. So kind of like Brachydios, this one has been seen in just about every single one of the most recent releases, even in Monster Hunter Stories and Stories 2 as well, just like Brachydios. So not only is Deviljho a popular monster, but it's of course considered an invader. And when it comes to invaders, we only have 2 really major ones. We have Rajang and we have Bazelgeuse. Bazelgeuse, of course, was introduced in 2.0 update. So at the end of the day, I think it's a pretty decent invader that this game is certainly lacking thereof. We don't necessarily view the new monsters as invaders. They really don't necessarily have that feeling to it. Maybe Luna Garen will be that. It does seem to be like one of the more aggressive monsters. I don't know if Malzeno will be that, only because it's a flagship. So maybe one of the new monsters that they introduce, more of the 4 new monsters that we are expecting to see being introduced as well, maybe one of them will be an invader, so that kind of like pushes Deviljho a little bit out of the way. But we certainly need more invaders, and Deviljho of course fits that bill to a T. Now the third monster that I do think fits perfectly here in this game would be of course Zamtrios, and there's multiple reasons as to why that is. This one has only ever appeared in 4 Ultimate and in Generations, and Generations Ultimate of course. So it hasn't necessarily been in a whole heck of a lot of games, only because it's one of the more newer monsters when you really try to put it into the bigger picture of Monster Hunter monsters that have kind of made their appearance in multiple titles. So Samtrios, not only has it been rumored as to be appearing in the base version of Monster Hunter Rise because data had been available for it, and also Zamites have also made their appearance into Monster Hunter Rise as well. So it's one of those monsters that a lot of people were kind of expecting to be added in as like post-launch DLC. It never really materialized, it never really happened. And I think if we're really going to be bringing back popular monsters that fans would love to see come back, I think Zamtrios would certainly fit that bill in that regard. Now, I know a lot of you are already asking, probably in the comments, like, where's Lagiacrus, where's Gore Magala? And the reality is, like I've touched upon in multiple videos by now, I don't think that is going to happen. I think Capcom is going to save those two monsters for Monster Hunter 6, Monster Hunter World 2, whatever the wording for that title will be. So I still hold to that Gore Magala and Lagiacrus will simply just be held back for whatever the next big title is. I know Capcom knows that people are demanding for those monsters. They certainly are going to bring them back, and it's most likely going to be with a big flagship title for the newer, bigger consoles like PS5 and Xbox Series X. Now, the next two monsters that I'm going to talk about, I don't necessarily think are really going to happen, only because I don't necessarily think they fit the biomes or the ecology for Monster Hunter Rise's Sunbreak introduction. I don't think they fit the bill if you're going to tell me these monsters can be seen in the Citadel. I don't think it makes a lot of sense. However, like I touched upon when I did with Brachydios, if they just simply bring back monsters, they're going to be appearing in the old maps and don't necessarily have to appear in the Citadel, then the next two monsters I'm going to talk about, I think they fit exactly in those certain biomes. And the first one, of course, is Arcantor. This is a monster that's only ever appeared in Monster Hunter 3, Generations and Generations Ultimate, and it is one of those monsters that people have been asking to see come back, only because it's a Leviathan type, just like Lagiacrus, and it fits kind of like that same bill of like, if they don't give you one, they should certainly give you the other. Agnactor also, of course, has the Uroctors, is I believe what they're called, the little like versions of Agnactor. Those are already available in Monster Hunter Rise. There has been data as well, kind of like Zamtrios. People expecting that monster to kind of be added in as post-launch DLC. It never really happened. So these two, I think, Zamtrios and Agnactor, fit the bill. I think one of them fits the bill a little bit more, Zamtrios does. But Agnactor, if it did make a comeback, I think this one would be a home run and people would be very happy to see it. And of course, I think the last monster that would certainly make a perfect addition into the Sunbreak roster would have to be Monoblos. This one has only ever been available in Monster Hunter 1, the very first game, and 2 Freedom, and I think in 4 Ultimate. So I don't think it's been in a lot of games. Of course, it's been in the online G versions of those games as well. But, you know, a lot of people never really played those. Only Japanese audiences really got to play those games. So Monoblos, and why Monoblos, of course, are kind of like one of those monsters that not a lot of people got to experience. They really love to compare them to Diablos, but they're very different when you really fight them. They're just, you know, completely different fight. Monoblos are a little bit less aggressive, but more daunting, whereas Diablos is extremely aggressive and more dangerous in that regard. So maybe ultimately Monoblos in the eyes of Capcom got replaced by Diablos, as Diablos has kind of become a little bit of a staple, like kind of like I mentioned with Brachydios and Devil Joe. But at the end of the day, I think Monoblos is one of those monsters that if they decide to bring back, and it's certainly considered a legacy monster, kind of like, you know, Shogun Senator and Astalos at this point, then it would certainly fit the bill if they decide to bring it over to this title. But those are the 5 monsters that I would certainly love to see come back into Sunbreak. I think they would certainly fit the bill when it comes to just monsters that would feel almost right at home in any of the biomes that are available there. And like I mentioned before, I certainly want to hear your guys' takes on what returning monsters you wish to see making their appearances to Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak. If you are brand new to my channel, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Hit the bell to receive notifications when the videos go up. And as always, thank you so much for watching. See ya.